Next, we have again with regards to the EV vehicles popularity and adoption of many vehicles using EV in the future. The question here is the battery here. What will happen to them in the near future once they're out of sorts or out of use already by the time they become obsolete or have outlived its usefulness here. And it's very concerning here what will happen to them because of its severe repercussions to our environment here. And according to the article at theguardian.com, millions of electric car batteries will retire in the next decade. So it's coming real soon. Question is what will happen to them. So according to the article, they predicted that 145 million vehicles on the road by 2030, and there's going to be a lot of batteries that's going to be on the roads. And question is what will happen to them and how is it going to be recycled here, because no matter how beneficial the electric vehicles is, but how they source those batteries is still not yet environmentally friendly, and disposing those batteries is another critical issue nonetheless. So it's going to be a potential environmental hazard or time bomb for your batteries here. Imagine the smartphones that we have here, and then multiply the number of batteries that it needs to use to be able to operate an EV vehicle here. So there's an estimate here that more than 12 million tons of lithium-ion batteries are expected to retire between now and 2030. So that's 7 years from now. So there's going to be a lot of garbage here. So think about it. Inside those batteries includes lithium content, nickel, and cobalt. And obviously, these are not ideally in terms of how it's being sourced, in terms of its environmental impact and human rights issues that on where they're being sourced in which country and which region here. So there's going to be a mountain of electronic waste and how it's going to be recycled. And it's not as if like food or clothing that you can easily recycle them from one form to another. But batteries like this one, it's going to be tricky and hazardous to say the least. And the main goal here, as mentioned, is what else can they do with this existing technology here. So another way is by creating as a recycling business, and obviously having research centers to figure out how they can disassemble those dead batteries and use it for other applications here. So the longer that we can use it, not just in one years or decade, 1 decade, or maybe a few more, several more decades, would be ideal here. And obviously, recycling shouldn't be the first option here. According to James Pennington, who leads the World Economic Forum Circular Economy program here, and he goes on to say that the best thing to do at first is to keep things in use for longer. So obviously, how can you squeeze out every ounce of batteries usage here will be detrimental here. And obviously, can it be transferred to other devices, other machines, or can it be easily replaced from your old EV battery pack in your vehicle and then just replace it similar to how AA batteries works? Maybe that would be another way of looking at it. And another one is according to Jessica Richter, who is a researcher for environmental policy at Lund University. She goes on to say that there is a lot of battery capacity left at the end of its first years in electric vehicles. So I think I saw an article where it mentions that over the course of several years, the maximum rate that you could fully charge your battery decreases over time, right? And it would deplete maybe 90, 80, or 70%. So at the end of its life cycle, there will still be some sort of battery capacity left. So the question is, what can you use it for that, so you don't have to throw it away? So if you cannot use it for your vehicle, but you could use it for something else, so maybe for your smart devices, so your laptops, smartphones, maybe even PC, or you could think of a lot of applications here. Especially, I think they also mentioned that they could use it for excess generated by solar or wind farms. So that's another way of looking at it. But the question here is, how quickly can it be adopted? Obviously, not everyone in the world is adopting what I call this, using solar powered technologies here. As mentioned here, it's only about 60% of lead acid batteries are used in vehicles, according to Richard Fuller, who leads a nonprofit for Pure Earth. and another 20% are used for storing excess solar power, particularly in African countries here. So again, so the dilemma here is how to maximize usage of those batteries, and how can you actually recycle it, you know, by the time it is out of circulation in the market here. And interesting here, lead acid batteries only last 2 years, and obviously, temperature has a big factor to it. So if there's heat issues, if you live in warmer climates, they degrade more quickly. So what happens to your battery? What facilities can accommodate those transition will be, obviously a good source for businesses here moving forward. And normally, which is not safe, that typically people would just crack open the battery and look for, whatever materials that can be utilized for or repurposing those materials and melted down in unsafe environment, which is not ideal, and obviously it exposes uh, unnecessary harmful chemicals to your surrounding, which is not good. And obviously we don't know what the implications here until we see the consequence of those indecisions here. Anyway, so the key here maybe is, not just to recycle the product at the end of the day, but also find ways to be able to repurpose them. And obviously there are still big technical challenges here, because right now we're still trying to find ways to build supply batteries for our vehicles. And question here is the end duration here. We are only skimming the surface, so to speak, and only time can tell. And obviously you need complex designs that recyclers must navigate to be able to repurpose those components moving forward here. And it's not going to be easy, and that's why that's the challenge for many companies here. And for those companies who can adopt and find ways to repurpose them, could make tons of profit here.